Hello viewers, you're welcome to this tutorial. So as I said, this is a practical session of the looping statement. Okay, so let me just maximize it for you. View appearance and the presentation mode. Okay, so we just want to implement how a looping statement actually works. Okay, now just like the if statement, the looping statement is also able to use this column, the indentations, and every other stuff. So now this is how to declare your for loop, because I made mention that there's a for loop and there's a while loop. Okay, if you don't know that, go to the previous tutorial about the introduction to looping statement. Okay, so we have our for loop, we have our while loop. We want to start with the for loop first. Okay, for loop wins, or while loop for while. We're just going to start with 1. Okay, so we want to declare a whole value on its own. Okay, want to declare value on its own, maybe a list called names. Okay, and names, we have a list. All right, so friends. All right, we have John, we have Baptist. We have Peter, we have any other name, James. Okay, all right, I'm just confused on the names to use. All right, so this is a list. All right, this is a list that we have right now, and we want to go through the list and allow the list to pass its values to us. Okay, we want to request the individual values of the list. So that's where we jump into the for loop. Now bear in mind, the for loop is so powerful. Okay, so now you already know by default of declaring a variable. Okay, so we go for. Now there's not declaring a variable. I said that for a reason. I'll explain it later. So just like the if statement, you go like for. So for, and you write down this name. Just check this out. I'll explain this later. For current value in names. Now what is the difference? This is so similar to the if statement we did in a previous tutorial. Anytime you want to open a for looping statement, you first have to start with a for, just like the if statement. So if you've been through the if statement tutorial, just if for equals 4. Okay, or maybe if prints in names. All right, and so if prints in names just means that if this name prints is in the list names. Okay, then you have all your conditions. Print yes. All right, so this is just about the if statement. Okay, don't mind the errors. It's because I've not inputted anything here. Okay, so that's how we're just trying to work right now. And the if statement also has this colon and it has indentation. So go back to understand what indentation means. I can't really go through it in this tutorial because I've explained it in the if statement. So go back and understand what indentation means. Okay, so if you're cool with indentation, then just continue with this tutorial. If not, go back to conditional statement to understand what indentation means and to know why we need this colon. Okay, all right, thank you. So let's start. So this is how to declare your looping statement for the for loop. So first bring the for, then bring any. Okay, you wait, type in current value. Okay, I'll come back to this. It's very interesting. This is why I said Python has an interesting for loop. So this type current value. After typing current value, say in names, because you want to check for current value in names, then print current value. Okay, all right, so let me now explain the current value. Okay, I said earlier in the introduction that the list is an iterable, meaning it's able to pass its individual values when they are needed. Okay, so meaning this names right here is the name of the list, and the list contains these several names. Okay, so meaning this name is able to pass its values as individuals to the current value. Okay, so what happens is for current value in names, it's not like the if statement where it goes by for prints in names, or maybe for this value in names, meaning that if this value is in this value. That's not how it works. So the if statement goes like if the current value is in the list. But for loops work different. For loop is not if the current value is in the list. For loop is actually these names will pass its values as individuals by indexing to this current value. So the first one, let me print it and see. Boom. So this is it. Just check this out. Okay, so the first value in the list is Prince, the second one is John, the third Baptist, Peter, then James, kind of the names of disciples though. Alright, so this is what we have right now. What we do is, so the for loop request the individual values by index in this iterable called names, because it's a list, so it's an iterable. So the list first passes the values of index 0, index 1, index 2, index 3, index 4. If you don't really know what list is, go back to the list tutorial as well. Okay, if you are cool, then let's continue. So the first value in the names is Prince, so it passes the Prince to current value, then it prints current value. So there's it, we have Prince. It passes the second value called John to this variable, then it prints John, and this is it. It passes the third value it has called Baptist to current value. So now this individual values it passes becomes a replacement to the value inside the variable called current value. Now if you watch my tutorial on variables, I made mention of if declaring a variable, the name of the variable is different from the containing value in the variable. So this is the name of the variable, this is the value inside the variable. So anytime I request for print, I can't believe I'm teaching variables here as well. Okay, anytime I require for value, it prints the value inside the variable. Okay, so that is the only thing you need to know. Alright, so the same thing, and this for loop also has a variable, but this variable is not a variable we put in a value ourselves. I said earlier that the names is an iterable. A list is an iterable. It is able to pass its individual values. So this current value is declared because it will be the placeholder or the receiver for the individual values inside names. I think I've said a whole lot of things, so I believe you now get it. Alright, so this is how to declare your for loop. Bring a variable which you would like to receive the individual values in the list you will call, then bring the in and bring the list you want to call, or the tuple or anything, but we're basing on list today. Then bring your columns, then after hit enter, it will give you the indentation. Okay, or if the indentation does not work, then just bring 4 spaces, 1 2 3 4. Okay, so you are good to go with the indentation. So this is how the for loop basically works. So if I run the code, I have the individual values being printed here. Okay, so this is how the for loop simply works. Write your for, bring in the value you want to be the placeholder or the receiver for the individual values in the list, then bring this, the in, then this. So you realize it's different from the if statement. The if statement is actually if this value is inside this value, if by chance you find this value in this value, print it. Okay, but the for loop is for the current value inside names. So for the current value received by names, put it here. Okay, so it kind of, this is a receiver for this, so it's kind of different from the if statement. Now someone will ask, is this value static? Can't I change the name? You can change the name. Okay, you can use any name, current, then make sure the same name you make a changes. So you can use any name you want. If I run the code, it still works. You can use my love. All right. My love. Okay, my love, sure, it will still work. So you can use any name at all, but I prefer to use current value because it is the current value this list passes to me. That is why I prefer current value. Okay, but you can use any name at all you want and it still hooks up with you. Okay, okay, I use Control D, which duplicated it. Okay, so that's a shortcut. Control D will kind of duplicate what you need. All right, so now this is how basically the for loop works. Okay, so in the next tutorial I'm going to also teach you an advance of how each one of them works. So this is basically what you need to do. Write your for, bring in the value which you would like to receive the individual values of your list or anything you have here, then now you do any other thing you want to do with them. So you can print something else and say I am glad. Okay, so if I say I am glad will be printed countless times. Okay, so this is it. Just check this out. It will print first Prince because that will be the first value, then it will later print I am glad. Okay, so these are the two things I would like to display. So you see how the for loop works. It prints them individuals countless of time. The second value is John, then it adds I am glad to John. Okay, the third value is Baptist, then it adds I am glad to Baptist. Sure. So that is how it basically works. So now thank you for viewing this. This is just a general concept about how the for loop works. I will explain into how to embed the if statement with the for loop, which is such a great deal. And in the next tutorial, just watch out for it. It will be a whole lot of pack. Okay, so thank you. Subscribe to the channel, and if it's good for you, then like the video, hit the bell to get every update, and thank you once more for viewing.